All right, so today's lesson is on simplifying radicals. It's going to be a pretty short lesson, so if you need to go back and finish up a Khan Academy for the Pythagorean theorem and the Pythagorean theorem converse, please go ahead and do that. Also, you could start on your project. We will need this skill to start on the spiral project, which is the next lesson. All right, so let's go. Let's go ahead and start with simplifying radicals. Now, when we're talking about a radical, notice how before we would end up with the square root of 81 and we would just, 9 times 9 would give us 81. That would just become 9. But last lesson, we ended up with different types of radicals that didn't simplify. They simplified down to decimal answers, like 455 simplified down to 21.3 as a decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually break apart 455 and see what that looks like in simplified radical form. So we're going to simplify radicals today because you're going to need that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at how to simplify a radical. Let's talk about the parts of a radical first. So we do have an index number. That's the number on the inside. Now for today's lesson, our index number is just going to be 2. So we're looking for groups of 2 numbers that are the same. The next thing is this is a radical sign, not a division sign. So that's a radical. And this is called a radicand, the number inside, radicand. All right, so for the first step is we're going to go find all the prime factors. So we're going to continue to break apart. So if I were to just say 25, I would break it apart as 5 times 5. And the square root of 25, there's a 2 here. We need to find a group of 2 numbers that are the same. Now, you guys already know that the square root of 25 is just going to give you 5 as a simplified form. And that's what we're really doing. Okay, so step 2, it says circle the same prime numbers. That's what I did here. As many as the index number, and that index number is 2. Then we're going to take each circled factor out of the radical side as a single factor. Okay, and then multiply the factors outside and inside of the radical sign. So whatever's left over or a remainder stays inside the radicand. So these are the steps that we're going to follow today on simplifying a radical. We're not going to talk too much today about product property, but you will use that next year with Algebra 2. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. Okay, so for example 1, we're going to break apart 75 as far as we can go. So 75 can factor out. When we're talking about factors, we're talking about multiplying. What are the multiples of 75? In this case, it's 3 times 25, 5 times 5, okay? And these are 3 prime numbers. If I were to multiply them back out, that would give me 75. All right, so if it's a square root, the index is 2. So we need groups of 2 numbers that are the same. Okay, and that's going to give us 5 times 5. So the 5 is going to go on the outside of the radical, and the 3, because it's left, does not have another 3 to come out, so we have to leave that inside the radicand. So this is our simplified radical form, and we're done. So what I'd like you to do now is you're going to go ahead and take a look at example 2, 3, and 4, and try to do them on your own. Okay, and I'm going to come back with the answer and explain the steps out. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now. All right, coming back, you should have this answered for 2, 3, and 4. You are also going to practice this on Khan Academy. So I'm going to break apart 12 to be 3 times 4, 2 times 2. Now, when we multiply that 2 out, you know the square root of 4 is just going to give you 2. That's why that simplifies down to just 2. So the 2 goes on the outside of the radical, and the 3 stays on the inside because it's our remainder. Let's go ahead and simplify the square root of 8. Okay, so the square root of 8 breaks down to 2 times 4 and 2 times 2. So here's another group of 2's. So 2 goes on the outside, and that 2 stays on the inside. If we wanted to backtrack and make sure we got the right answer, you can take this number on the outside, square it, and then multiply it by the number on the inside. 2 squared is going to give me 4. 4 times 2 gives me 8. And that works. So you can always check your answer on a quiz or a test. Alright, but this is our overall simplified radical. Now looking at 72. 72 breaks down to 9 times 8 and 3 times 3. 8 breaks down 2 times 4, which is just 2 times 2. So looking at this, we've got a group of 2 2s, a group of 2 3s and 2 2s, but then we have 1 2 left over as a remainder. So when we multiply this back out, we end up with 3 times 2, because we're going to end up with 3 times 2 times the square root of 2. Simplifying that out, you would just multiply 3 times 2, which would give you 6 square root 2, and you are done. So that is how you would simplify radicals. I'd like you to go ahead and go on to Khan Academy and practice this skill a little bit more before we get started on the spiral, which is in our next lesson. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope everything's going okay. If this is looking like Chinese to you, you need to go see Mr. Bill. Not Mr. Bill, Mr. Bull, and he will help you out. He is located in Miss Rich's old room, but you can also access his link on the tutoring page. Okay, have a great day, guys.